Richard in Texas, you're on the line with Jimmy Snow and Paulogia.
This is me?
I assume
Hello,
so. If
Richard.
you're Richard in Texas.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a beep. I didn't hear my name. So I see the show title, and I was wondering if we could maybe find something we could disagree on. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. I'm not sure. But I see the show is titled "Why Believe in God."
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could discuss why believe in progressive, politically correct ideas.
Okay,
Because
well, that's.
You think
So you believe that that is
sorry,
a
go ahead.
subcategory of the title, "Why Believe in God," would lead to a
Yes,
conversation of.
I'll explain why briefly. So these debating belief in God topics typically take the format of, and from what I've seen, I don't know, I haven't been watching you guys very long, but they typically take the format of a progressive atheist framing the debate as in God believers are irrational and delusional, and atheists are rational and logical. But from what I see, belief in God, although I'm not a believer myself, is no less rational than belief in many, progressive, liberal, politically correct things that make people feel good, but aren't necessarily rational or logical. So I just think it's kind of unfair to frame a debate in God so narrowly that everything irrational that typically many progressives believe in is off limits, and only something that the other side believes in is critiqued. That's my opinion.
So Richard, I got to ask you, who would you like me to get added to the call onto the line? Because neither Paul nor I have presented or framed, as you say, that atheists are rational and logical and theists universally are not. Your characterization from the onset is incorrect. In fact, I don't even believe most atheists are logical and rational. The people who I believe are logical and rational are those people who value being logical and rational. Now, I think if a person correctly applies skepticism, that tends to be a outcome, an emergent property even of skepticism. However, your characterization from the ground up is bullshit. And I wonder if we can just cut through the bullshit and get straight to the actual reason you called, because you are too cowardly to call on a Thursday and say, I think that trans issues are the new religion. And in reality, Richard, you're calling because you're hoping you can turn this into some sort of anti-trans rant from you, where you're going to tell the people who present themselves as so logical that they're just as religious as Christians. Can we just cut to that? Can we just get there, Richard, or do we got to play the bullshit along the way?
Two things. One, you basically projected onto me what you did, because when I joined the discussion, I conceded that we may or may not find disagreement, because I haven't been listening to you guys that long. And I couched what I said, my statements, in saying often, many times, typically, I never made a blanket statement. So you are,
yeah, and
Mr.
I'm telling you were
today,
incorrect
you
because it never happens.
You get a sticker.
The framing you offered never happens. So anyway, can we jump forward to the fact that you don't like trans people and you don't like people validating trans people by saying things like women are women, trans women are women, men are men, and trans men are men? Can we just jump forward to it, or are you going to pretend that that's not what you're trying to get into?
Your question, your question implies that the only topic that the left is delusional about is gender, but there are any number of topics.
Hey, Richard. Which topic were you hoping we would get to that the progressive left is delusional on?
The one that you're most passionate about, that one.
No. When you called in, Richard, you were preparing for this call. You had in your mind arguments you were ready to lay down. And you can pretend you didn't do that, but I've faced your type before, and I'm also familiar that you've called in before. You were here and ready with something. Which specific line, which set of arguments were you most prepared and intending to direct the concept of this progressive left delusion?
Depends on which topic gets your pussy the wettest.
Oh my God.
That's the
He's
one I
just
want
not
to
going
talk
to answer.
about. Not one that you don't. Not one that you just don't have. That
Richard,
you're not
I don't
passionate
believe
about.
you.
I want something
I
that
don't
you're
believe
very
you.
passionate about, and we can debate that.
Uh-huh.
So wait,
Richard, I just don't
you
believe
want
you.
us? You want me to self-identify the beliefs that I hold that I think are irrational?
Well, I can throw out some. I can throw out a few, and you can pick. We could talk about the gender wage gap. We could talk about abortion. We could talk about the ACLU. We could talk about Islam. There are any number of delusions that you may or may not partake in that we could debate. But I don't want to debate you on something that we don't disagree on. I want to debate you on a point that we disagree on.
Hey, Richard. Why the fuck would we take a call with what is called poisoning the well? Once again, I hope people who are calling in to claim to be more logical would actually learn things about skepticism, logical fallacies. We can talk about any one of your delusions. Why would we? Richard, you're right. We could talk about this. We could talk about that. Or I could punch myself in the nuts. Have a good night. He was calling to shit on trans people. Let's be real. That's what it was. That's what his intention was from the onset. It was notably, he tried to lower it down on the list there toward the end.
Of course.
I'd rather eat my own shit.
I want to know what he meant by Islam. He just dropped Islam in that list of delusions. I'm like, what?
I was ready to go there too.
I was like, what part of Islam? What do you mean?
This is the point. The person is calling and complaining that other people are projecting, but then saying definitively, these are the delusions you may have, meaning he thinks we have them, but he's trying to use language that he can always sort of get away with. Very J.K. Rowling-esque. Well, I worded it this way and this way. Of course, I would march with trans people. I just wish they would all die after the march. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit of I'm trying to couch this in a way where I never have accountability for what I'm clearly fucking doing. I'm not a very good thinker, but my confidence in my ability to think is sky high. It's not impressive. And the guy, if you're going to call in and project all of this and use all of this language that to a regular, like random person listening would have listened to that if it had gone unchallenged and be like, oh, wow, they believe that, and that because Richard just listed those things. They didn't challenge that whether they believe those things or not. When like, you're going to come to this channel and say, I assume that we like defend Muslim people, or perhaps he was going to be one of the morons who was going to say, well, in Gaza, if you're a queer man, right? Which maybe I doubt he knows I'm a queer because the guy clearly only wants to make assertions based on things that he hasn't actually heard of our mouths and just based on these stereotypes. So anyway, they would have thrown you off the roof in Gaza. So we should keep killing Gazan babies. That's what we got to do, guys. They would kill the queer. So let's keep killing their children. Fucking idiot. I'm not impressed by people like that. And I'm not going to waste my time. I told Arden, before you got here, Paul, that I'd written a song before the show. And the song goes thusly. I don't want to be here. 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 But I am here. And so if I'm going to be here, I'm not going to waste my time on pedantic people who are... Here's my assertion about Richard. I don't know Richard, but since he's allowed to make assertions, I'll do what he did. I'll add the word may. Richard strikes me as the kind of guy who may tell people in arguments what his IQ is or what he claims it to be. That's what I get out of Richard. Richard strikes me as somebody who may really find people like Ben Shapiro and Andrew Tate compelling, equally compelling. Richard may have his head so far up his ass, he's given himself pink eye. Anyway, we can move on.